On today's episode of the DuckZone503 Podcast, we're going to be recapping the Week 8 matchup of Washington State at number 9, Oregon. Oregon got a big-time win this last weekend. Let's go ahead and recap it. I'm your host, Dominiqk Peterson. This is the DuckZone503 Podcast. We talk all things Oregon football. We got a special guest as well. Let's get into it, people.
Welcome to the DuckZone503 Podcast. Talking all things Oregon football. With your host, Dominiqk Peterson. Let's go.
Welcome into today's edition of the DuckZone503 Podcast. Today is Monday, October 23rd, 2023, and I am happy to be with you, people. The Ducks got the job done Saturday afternoon, beating the Cougars 38-24. It certainly wasn't a dominant performance, certainly wasn't the best game I've seen from the Ducks, but nonetheless got the job done and won by 2 scores at home in Autzen Stadium. Look, I get some fans expect the Ducks to score 60 points a game and put up 600-plus yards of offense every game, but I certainly didn't expect the Ducks to just run away with this one. The Cougars got, they got a pretty damn good team. Remember, folks, like Josh Pay always likes to say, your record does not resemble how good your football team is in no way, shape, or form. Washington State came into this game after a pretty bad loss to Arizona, 44-6. But other than that, they were highly competitive against UCLA in a close loss on the road. They had huge wins at home against the Beavers and Wisconsin. So it wasn't like this team wasn't any good. I had a final score prediction of 42-24 coming into the game, and I was pretty damn close. Welcome in Maleki Stayton of the DucksFocus podcast, a frequent guest of the show. What were some of your expectations coming into this game? Are you impressed with this win? How are you feeling as a Duck fan after this game, man?
Going into it, I was a little bit like, we'll see how the Ducks perform, but I felt like our boys were going to be hungry after the Washington game, so I wasn't too concerned, but I knew that it wasn't going to be easy, and I knew that Washington State was going to be a competitor, and they were, and they did good, but yeah, I wasn't too impressed or not impressed. I think it's kind of what I expected out of the game, not going to lie.
Yeah, I would say it was probably a B-, maybe C+ game from the Ducks, and you still win by 2 scores. I mean, some of the best teams in the country, if you're able to play a C+ game, B- game, and still win by 2+ scores against a quality football team, I mean, that's exactly what you want to see from Dan Lanning and the staff, a bounce-back game that you very well needed. I mean, if you were to come out and lose this game, I mean, you want to talk about an avalanche of a downhill spiral for this team, and they stopped it. They didn't let that happen. It was a competitive game in that first half. We're going to do our game recap here in a second. But, man, I just love, like I said, we've seen it in that Texas Tech game, week 2, the start of the season, the fight, resiliency of this team to not give up, to come out and win this big-time game on a throwback week, rocking the throwback unis. Everybody's got their throwback gear on. Loved it, feeling that 90s retro. It's a great week for Oregon football, all their fans, to celebrate the history of Oregon football, to come back home and feel the love of the program, feel the love of this football team, and get a win. Get a nice, solid win against a quality opponent and to keep this thing going. Before we keep recapping and giving our analysis of this Washington State number 9 Oregon game, where can we find your work, Maleki? You got the DucksFocus podcast. We got it there at the ticker if you guys want to go follow him. Where else can we find your work?
Yeah, you can find me over on Instagram at DucksFocus. You can find me on Spotify, Google Podcast, and Anchor, I believe, are the 3. So, yeah, find me over there.
Bam. There you go, guys. Go ahead and hit that follow button for DucksFocus podcast. Maleki Stayton's frequent guest of the show. Love getting his take. He also goes to all the games, gets his, gets that firsthand view so he can get the most quality takes that a podcaster can give. You know what I'm saying? This is a pod. Both of our podcasts are for the fan, by the fan. Let's do it, man. All right, guys. Don't forget me, though. DuckZone503 Podcast. Make sure to subscribe here. We're on YouTube and Spotify. Listen on Spotify. Make sure to rate that thing 5 stars for me. That's the way you can help me out on there. If you're on YouTube, hit that like and subscribe button. I was there. Washington State at Oregon. The vlog is out now on YouTube. Full 1-hour vlog. I do it every time I go to the home games. I also got the Washington game on a vlog. Most viewed vlog, guys. We're sitting there at 800 views on the vlog for the Washington game, man. Keep it going. Love to see you guys tuning in. Love meeting you guys. at the tailgates, in the Autzen Stadium, taking pictures, videos with you guys. Absolutely love connecting with people that listen to the podcast, follow the social medias. So never be too scared if you guys see me to say what's up. 962 subscribers, guys. We're trying to get to 1,000. Let's get there. We're so close from where we want to be from the start of the season. Let's get it. All right, guys, let's do a quick game recap of this game. First quarter, okay. It was a little worrisome. Something that's been a little worrisome for me the whole season now is the Ducks came out a little slow against the Cougars. Now, it's not like they absolutely didn't do anything, but they didn't just come out and lay put the gas on the pedal. Like, we see in the Chip Kelly, the golden era of Oregon football. I mean, you'd see that team just go up like 21-zip, 28-zip in the first quarter and you just have this thing done. And that's something I still want to see this program get to. And they've done it at times. I mean, especially against Colorado, they came out and started fast. But for the majority of the season now, they've let teams either get that upper hand to start out early or kind of let them hang around where it's still a game. Cam Ward in that offense was able to move the ball down the field due to, relative kind of not a lot of pressure. Oregon schematically, wasn't really bringing a lot of blitz packages. They're kind of dropping 8. They did finish the game with 6 sacks. So, I mean, off a game where it didn't really feel like Oregon was getting a lot of pressure, it felt like Cam Ward was really making plays with his feet as well. They still finished with 6 sacks. So the Oregon front has been special all year. It's really great. The Oregon offense was moving the ball in that first quarter. Never really capitalized in the red zone. That's another kind of red flag I'm looking at with this Will Stein offense is our red zone offense hasn't been the most efficient. We've been a damn good job, very efficient, one of the most efficient offenses, if not the most efficient offense in the country. When getting the ball down the field, it's when after we hit that 20-yard line in the red zone, things get a little dicey for Oregon lately. Kind of cost us in that Washington game in certain fourth down situations as well. So that's a little red flag I'm watching as the season continues here. Game was tied 3-3 after the first quarter. Going on to the second quarter, this is when Bucky Irving and Jordan James and that O-line got to cooking. Washington State simply could not stop the run. The Oregon offense really relies on this run game to be successful in order to set up the pass game. And that's exactly what happened in this game when offensive coordinator Will Stein started to see those chunk run plays. A couple of explosive plays as well, which I really love to see. Oregon wins the second quarter 14-10. They go up 17-13 at the half. It felt like in that moment that Oregon was playing a solid game, but certainly not their best. Then third quarter, credit to Dan Lanning and the staff for making the proper adjustments. They really took the momentum of the game by relying on Bucky Irving in that run game, and it paid off big time. Oregon dominates the third quarter 14-3. Really felt like they were starting to shut down the Washington State offense. Seemed like they made adjustments, starting to figure out some things, while offensively that Washington State just could not stop a thing with Oregon's run game. They go up 31-16 when it was time to shout. Boy, did we ever. That shout was fun. Maleki knows what I'm talking about. Fourth quarter comes in. Oregon ices the game with a beautiful, and guys, I mean absolute beautiful fade route in the end zone. Bo Nix to Tez Johnson. Ducks go up 38-16 at that point. Game was pretty much over. Washington State scores in garbage time. Ducks get another late score, and that was all she wrote. Ducks win 48-24 final. Let's go ahead and do a stat recap real quick. Player of the game for me, man. Got to be our guy right here. Bucky Irving was the player of the game. 15 carries for 129 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's good for 8.6 yards per carry, folks. On the year now, Bucky Irving nationally is one of the best running backs carrying the ball yards per carry. That stat is very key, and he's one of the best. I mean, the first guy that comes at him simply does not get him down. This is what makes Bucky so special, though. He can run the ball. He can block for Bo Nix, and he's also a threat in the pass game as well. Finished the game with 180 total yards and 3 touchdowns. I love Bucky Irving, man, no doubt. Arguably one of the best backs that Oregon has had here in a while. I love the way he never goes down and how he fights. He appears to be okay after that late game scare. He went down for a little bit. Maybe he got the wind knocked out of him. It kind of appears like, maybe got the wind knocked out of him. After that, he was fine. Overall, it appears all right. Definitely going to need him in that Utah game that's coming up. Big time game. I can't forget, to show love to Jordan James as well. The true sophomore stepped up very nicely since the season-ending injury to Noah Whittington. Against Washington State, Jordan James put up 103 yards on 13 carries. That's 7.9 yards per carry, people. Shout out Jordan James for continuing to contribute. Bo Nix, continues to be special. We cannot take this level of quarterback play for granted, guys. I mean, this dude is consistent day in and day out, 54 career starts now. This is just another day in the office for Bo Nix. Most ever starts by a college football quarterback now. Just so happens that his first game was against the Ducks as well, Justin Herbert. So that's pretty crazy to think about. Against Washington State, Bo Nix, 18 of 25, 293 yards, 2 touchdowns, just pure efficiency when it comes to this offense. He certainly didn't need to pass it that much in this game, thanks to how well Oregon was running the ball. But in just 25 passes, he throws for 300 yards and 7 incompletions. I mean, this is becoming expected. Bodacious, Bo Heisman. I get that he's kind of fallen off a little bit in the conversation for Heisman since that loss to Washington. You know, a game, honestly, where he played better than Michael Penix statistically. But he did get the loss, and he fell a little bit. But let's go ahead and look at Michael Penix. Last week, go look at the stats against Arizona State. 275 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a close 15-7 win against a not-so-good Arizona State team. And then you got Bo here, just Mr. Consistent every week. I don't think this Heisman campaign is over one bit for Bo. I think this offense right here for the Ducks is sitting there at tops in the country right now. And it's led by this man right here, Bo Nix. I wouldn't want any other quarterback as my quarterback. I'm just saying. Now on the negative side for me, I'm just saying, man. I mean, Bo Nix is doing his thing. On the negative side for me, though, the defense did allow Cam Ward to throw over 400 yards. Okay, I love the effort that Dante Manning and Triquez Bridges are giving out there. They do make a couple plays here and there, but it's pretty obvious that there's a significant drop-off to the pass defense when starting corners Kyrie Jackson, who was out for this game, appeared that he was going to play before this game early in the week. There was reports of him practicing, and he was fine. Then we just didn't see him this game. And then Jaleel Florence, he didn't play in the first half at all. Didn't see him out there. And then the second half, he comes in and makes a sack and makes a nice play. And I don't know what was going on with that, if he was injured or what's going on. Dan Lanning is not very transparent with the injury news. So it's kind of hard to get a feel. But just off my opinion, I think when Dante Manning and Triquez Bridges are out there, I don't think Oregon's completely horrible. But it's very apparent that this is a big drop-off. The last time that a quarterback came into Autzen Stadium and passed for 400-plus yards was Michael Penix in a loss against Triquez Bridges and Dante Manning. Now those guys get another opportunity this year. They let the quarterback throw for 400-plus yards on them. So I think we're going to want to start at quarterback corners soon as possible. Really, against this Utah game, in this Utah game, I don't think you need them. I don't think they're a big part of the game plan. I don't think Utah's pass offense is nearly as elite as Washington or Washington State's. But I do think we're going to start needing them. The game was, probably the worst performance from the front four as a pass rush goes. Again, they finished with 6 sacks, but, they didn't really get pressured entirely in that first half. I thought in that second half, they did make the adjustments. They did get pressure, but in that first half, I mean, it was pretty hard to get pressure with those front four guys. I think a lot of it had to do with scheme as well, though. I'm not going to totally blame those guys. Oregon was dropping 8 playing the pass, so there wasn't too many blitz packages coming at Ward. And then 2, Cam Ward is just a special quarterback, guys, when it comes to evading the pass rush. I mean, you've seen it a bunch of times. I was sitting there in the stand just frustrated because it appeared that the Oregon defense was going to get home, and then Ward, just being a special quarterback he is, evades the defense and finds his guy. Not at all Oregon's fault. I really hope to see Kyrie Jackson and Jaleel Florence get back as soon as possible. Other than that, though, I thought Oregon did what they needed to do to win this game. The run game dominated Washington State's defense. The Cougars simply couldn't stop it. And Oregon did enough on defense and got enough stops to win the game, 48-24 at home. So, Maleki, I know I just did a long rant on that recap, but I just want to hear your thoughts about this game. What are some of your takeaways from this win? What are your thoughts, man?
I totally agree with practically everything you just said. I think our offense started off a little bit slow, and we've seen this in the past couple weeks that our offense comes out and they've just started off slow. And it's a little bit concerning, right? Especially as we start playing these ranked teams like Utah, Oregon State, right? And we even saw it versus Washington, right? That kind of turned into a shootout, and there was drives, right, where we could have went and scored, and we didn't. And I think that us starting off slow is something that us Oregon fans are just starting to expect in games, right? You're just kind of starting to expect, our offense is going to need a couple drives before they can start going, which it can hurt us, and it will hurt us, right, if we continue to be like that. And so hopefully our offense can start to pick it up and come out really quick. I think our running backs, wow, I mean, just hands down to Bucky Irving, Jordan James, like those guys are amazing. That's all that I can come up with is just amazing. And so they did a great job, but I do think our offense needs to start picking it up because it is concerning, how slow they're starting. Our offensive line has continued to do a really great job at making those, gaps. Washington State, I don't think they had any sacks. I checked on that, but I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think they had any sacks. So that, great job to our offensive line. Defensively, I think, it didn't seem like there was a ton of pressure there, but as you said, there were 6 sacks. Evan Williams, Justin Jacobs, Mateo Yu, like all these guys had a sack, but it just felt like that pressure wasn't really there. And just like Dom said, it felt like when you were watching the game, you were like, oh, we're about to get a sack. And then he would throw it for 40 yards. And yeah, he had 438 yards and a touchdown, no interceptions, but still 438 yards is something that our secondary can't be doing. Right. And, it was hard because you'd watch it and you'd be like, there's a wide open guy over there who's on him. And I've said this earlier in the season when I came on the show. I don't remember what game it was, but if I told you, it felt like, you were watching the game, you're just like, who was supposed to be on him? Where is our secondary? That was with our starters. And so, having some backups in, right, they get that playing time. I wouldn't say they did a horrible job. By no means would I say they did a horrible job, but I think that 438 yards is a little bit too much. And we got away with a win, right? 38-24 looks good. But again, I think that defense is becoming an issue. And as we start playing offenses that are going to, know that is our weakness. And if, let's say we do make it into a playoff game, we're playing a team, like Georgia or Michigan, right? Our secondary has got to clean it up. But overall, I think it was a pretty good game. It was fun to watch. And I think our team is improving every week. I've said it for a while that I think you're seeing our team improve every week. And I think this is a special team. I really do. I think this is a really special and good team. And I'm excited to see where they end up going throughout the season. So tough game next week, but I'm liking how we're looking so far. I really am. I am liking how we're playing in Dan Lanning's second year. So
100%, man. Yeah. And road games, we're going to Utah now, next one. And, the slow starts have kind of, against Washington, still kind of slow start against Texas Tech, kind of a slow start. Washington State now, we allowed them to kind of take the momentum to start the game. So it's definitely something we're going to need to improve here. Like I said, the secondary was a little bit of an issue, but again, we had our backups in most of the game. I want to get our starters, hopefully Jaleel Florence and Kyrie Jackson, get healthy soon. And checking the stats, Washington State did not have a sack. So shout out the offensive line for not giving up a sack there. And I'm sure Duck fans, shout them out, man.
Yeah, shout out to the boys in the trenches, honestly. They deserve it. They've been doing good.
Oh, yeah. They've been special all year. I think they've only given up 4 sacks all year, something that Oregon fans absolutely love. And if you guys know me, I love watching sports and making money. I'm in love with Mojo Fantasy, guys. It's a crazy new app that turns sportsbook odds and selections into fantasy contests. Here's how it works. There are thousands of NFL and MLB player props. You build a portfolio, and the better your portfolio performs, the more cash you win. Pick as many props as you want and try to beat the crowd. It's a whole new way to play fantasy. The props act like stocks, so you can buy and sell live all game long. It's the only fantasy app that lets you make moves after the game starts. So you're not stuck with a bad pick. You can cash in on a hot start or just hang on and let them ride. Cash contests are based on real sportsbook odds. Get the same live player prop selections, odds, and cash outs as Mojo's New Jersey Sportsbook. You can trade sports like stocks. You control the action. Ride your picks, cash out, or enter new positions instantly. And there's no house advantage. This is probably one of my favorite things about it. Beat the crowd by building the biggest portfolio to climb the leaderboard and win cash prizes. That's it, guys. Make picks, make moves, make money. Download now on the Apple App Store and use my code DuckZone for a 100% deposit match up to $100 for your first time deposit. Link in the description for more. All right, guys. So in our preview and prediction episodes that we do every week, we like to give our 3 keys to the game. Now, here was my 3 keys right here. We're going to go ahead and recap them. Did they get a check mark? Did they hit that key, or did they get an X? Did they not hit that key? So number 1, I had contain Washington State's passing attack, hold Cam Ward under 300 plus yards. Obviously, they did not contain him. He had 400 plus yards in this game. He was making plays with his feet. But the biggest thing is we got the win. Now, that key did not hit, so I'm going to give an X for number one. There's an X. Number two, I got to win the turnover battle. Now, this was a clean game by both teams. No team had a turnover. Both offenses played a really clean game. Oregon's offense has been one of the best in the country at not turning over the ball. Bo Nix just has one interception on the year. I can't even remember if there was a fumble lost this year from the Ducks. So to be honest with you, I think the Ducks, are probably one of the best teams at not turning over the ball, which is really good. On the other side, though, on the defense for the Ducks have not forced a lot of turnovers this year. Now, this is something that could change. These are things that are kind of based off chance and being in the right position. But again, another part of the equation is forcing those turnovers, punching the ball out, getting aggressive, and those are things that the Ducks are going to need to start doing, especially in big games. I mean, against Washington, we couldn't, we had that one gifted turnover, the pick. We decided not to take the points, and it was all for none. So when we get gifted picks like that, gifted interceptions, we got to convert on it. We got to win the turnover battle. And that's just something we didn't do this game, but luckily it didn't cost us because our offense didn't turn over the ball either. So that's the good news. Going forward, something to pay attention to for the Ducks defense is forcing turnovers. They're definitely upgraded. The front seven's getting pressure. When the starters are in and the corners, the secondary looks to be upgraded. But forcing turnovers is something that just hasn't really happened for this Ducks defense. So if we're going to, give up yards, if we're going to give up 400 yards a game against Washington State, we might be able to win for 2 scores. But against really good teams, you give up 400 yards passing. I mean, you got to have a turnover there or 2 to be in it. You know what I mean? So that's something I'm going to be looking forward to. And then number 3, I had dominate the line of scrimmage. So number 3, I would definitely say this is a pass. So 1 out of my 3 keys hit here. Dominate the line of scrimmage. The defense, again, it felt like in the first half, they really weren't getting any pressure. But in that second half, they really got to Cam Ward, made him feel uncomfortable, made him have to run the ball. And Cam Ward certainly made plays. He used his feet to get out there, and that's just something he's going to do. But the defense did get 6 sacks on the game, which is really impressive. And then offensively, you want to talk about dominate the line of scrimmage. I mean, when you're getting 7-8 yards of carry from your 2 running backs, that's called dominate the line of scrimmage in a definition. So 1 check, contain Washington State's passing attack, didn't pass there. They let them pass all over them. Number 2, win the turnover battle. We didn't force one. Luckily, the Ducks didn't turn over the ball either. And the number 3, I dominate the line of scrimmage. Certainly was probably the biggest key of the game was number 3 there, because without that run game, could have been a whole different outcome. But the run game just controlled the game the whole time. Maleki, since we're not going to have you on for the preview and prediction, let's do this. I know it's kind of off the top of your head. Let's go look on to next week a little bit here. We got Utah College game day. It's going to be in Salt Lake City. Let's just get off. This is off the top of the head. I know you're kind of going to be thinking about randomly, but what's your 3 keys of the game against Utah? Like if you had to come up against your 3 biggest keys, what do we have to do against Utah to win that game? Let's get your three keys of the game.
I'd say number 1, it's got to be our offense cannot start off slow. It's got to be, we have to stay on pace as an offense. Every time we have that ball, we need to score. And we need to go up fast, I think, especially versus Utah defense, who is, again, one of the best in the Pac-12. I think number 2, our D-line and our secondary as a whole, our whole defense just needs to perform at the best that they can, because this offense, they can chew you up, right? And they're just going to pound the ball at you. So I think our defensive line hasn't done horrible, but also hasn't done a great job with the run. So I think they need to step up. Number 3, let's see, what's my number 3 for
in Salt Lake
spot in Salt Lake
on the road?
I would say not letting the crowd affect them, how they play, which I told you earlier. I think we've done a good job with it so far being on the road this season. But I think that they can't.
Salt Lake is a different place.
It is.
That's just a different place, man. So
it is. And so right. I think they need to not let it get to their head that college game day is there, right? A lot of eyes are going to be on this game. This is pretty much the best match. This is the best matchup of this weekend. So there's going to be a lot of eyes, and I think they just need to go in and do what Oregon football does, right?
And it's a must win. So you got to have that pressure to calm your nerves. So 100%, man.
Yeah.
Both a must win for both teams because Utah's already got a conference loss. Oregon's got a conference loss, so they're coming off high, a big win against USC. So it's gonna be fun to watch that one. I'll be in Vegas to watch that one, so that's gonna be awesome. So if any Vegas Duck fans, hit me up. I'll be there out there trying to watch the game. But anyways, we're gonna have our preview and prediction episode here on the DuckZone503 podcast with a special guest from the Utah. Covering Utah. I'm not going to give away too much. You guys will see that coming out on Wednesday. We'll have our preview and prediction. So stay tuned for that big Utah game. Let's give some final thoughts here. Oregon wins at home against Washington State 48-24. They win. Offensively, I think, the Ducks did what they needed to do, ran that ball. I think they have better athletes on the offensive line, way better athletes, and they showed. They're able to just control the clock, do what they want to do. And when Oregon can run the ball, it opens up the pass game. And you've seen how efficient Bo Nix was once again, 18-25, 200, close to 300 yards. Just another day in the office for him. And he didn't really have to do too much, but when he did do something, it was very efficient. And that's something, as much as, Will Stein, people are kind of talking about him. Some people don't like him. Some people do. Me, I think he's doing just fine, man. Like, I said the red zone offense needs to just get a little better. I think he tends to lack some creativity when it gets to the red zone. I'd like to see a little more plays, a little more, maybe play action, maybe a little more jet sweep, stuff like that. But for the most part, man, he's been doing just fine. It doesn't look too different from what Kenny Dillingham was trying to do. A lot more east and west type of stuff. A lot of out to the sideline throws, kind of screen plays. More that Kenny Dillingham was trying to stretch the field more vertically, I feel like, last year. But other than that, man, I think Will Stein just he relies on what's working in the game. He's a big, I think he's a big adjuster off of what the defense is trying to do, rather than forcing like Mario Cristobal style forcing an offense. I think he adjusts to what the defense is trying to attack, and then based off that. And we seen it in the Texas Tech game where Tim DeRuyter, the defensive coordinator, just kept blitzing, and we ran a lot of screen passes. We ran a lot of quick passes, and that worked. In this game, he's seen that the run game was just dominating, and he went with it. So I love that style of coaching where you can see what the defense is doing, seeing what works, and adjust to it and attack it. Defensively, really want to get our corners back. I feel like the defense, the pass game, kind of let Cam Ward make some plays. Luckily, it didn't really cost him because Oregon played such a clean game offensively, really controlled the clock with their run game. But other than that, really want to get our starters back. I love Dante Manning. I don't want to make this a hate episode about Dante Manning or Triquez Bridges, but it's just obvious that the defense is a lot better defending the pass with Jaleel Florence stepping up this year and with Kyrie Jackson just being an absolute beast. Hopefully we see him back. I don't know if it's an injury with him. I'll be trying to keep tabs on that, keep you guys updated. But it's appeared like he was healthy going through practices, and now all of a sudden he's not playing games. So hopefully he returns. Other than that, though, Ducks get the job done, 48-24. Special teams is kind of still a little bit of an issue. We're seeing Camden Lewis miss some kicks. Hopefully he gets back in a rhythm, gets his confidence back up. Hopefully his confidence isn't shaken. That's kind of the last thing you want as a kicker. You got one job to do, is to be confident and be confident in your kicks. And when you miss a big time kick like that, like you did in Washington, and then you come out and miss another one to open the game against Washington State, these are things that can take toll on you, on your confidence as a kicker. So hopefully our guy Camden can come through, get his confidence back, and start making some big time kicks, because in this Utah game coming up, in a close game on the road, again, we've seen it against Washington, you're going to need your kicker to come through. So that's kind of my final thoughts on the game. Ducks get it done on a B- C+ type game. This is what the best teams in the conference are going to do, is when you need to win and you're not playing your best, you find ways to win. And Oregon did it through the run game. They found a way to win. Shout out Jordan James and that offensive line and Bucky Irving for making the plays this game and getting the win for the Ducks. They win on an awesome 90s throwback era type game, wearing the throwbacks, and it's just awesome. All right, man, what's your kind of final thoughts? You want to wrap it up, final takes, and kind of what you're looking forward to coming up against Utah?
Yeah, I think you just covered it. I mean, I would say it was a good win at home. I was proud of, our team and getting it done. I definitely think it was a bounce back win that was needed for our team just to kind of boost our confidence going into Utah. And they met my expectations for what I had for them. Again, as I said earlier, I wasn't going into it. I didn't really have a ton of opinions on it. I wasn't very, we might lose, we might win by this many. I was just kind of like, I think the Ducks got it, and I hope they can execute. And what you said about Will Stein, I completely agree with too. That I really like his coaching method and how he does adjust. And I think it's unique compared to a lot of coaches, especially offensive coordinators in college football. They kind of just have this style and they stick to it. So I think it's really unique that he does that. But I do think, as you mentioned also earlier with the red zone, he needs to maybe add a little bit of magic in there and start picking it up on red zone. But other than that, I think it was a good game. And just hopefully next week versus Utah, our defense can step it up a little bit more, and our offense again can come out and kind of 1-2 combo Utah. And we can, if we were to blow out Utah, I'd be pretty happy. I'm just saying, if we were to pull that off, it'd make my night. So yeah, that's what I have.
Oh yeah, man. Me being in Vegas, you probably won't hear from you the rest of the night after the game. All right, guys, man. If you want to support my fund for beer in Vegas, here's the way to do it right here. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Dominiqk Peterson, host of the DuckZone503 Podcast, where we talk all things Oregon football. Very excited to announce we just launched our very first merch store. Men's and women's t-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, stickers, phone cases, mugs, and cups are all sold at DuckZone503.creator-spring.com. If you want to go grab one of those today, that's DuckZone503.creator-spring.com. Store link will be in the description below as well. Oh yeah, guys! If you guys want to fund my beer, money roll for my bankroll for beer in Las Vegas, go hit that link in the description down below. No, in all serious though, guys. Hey, this is podcast. Look, it's like I said in the beginning. Same with Maleki. We're just a couple of fans, man, giving our take. I don't claim to be an expert in any sorts. I'm not a coach. I'm not a player. I've played football. I know the game of football, so I decided to talk about it. I've been an Oregon football fan all my life. So if you guys really want to show your support in any type of way, monetarily, getting some merch is the way to do it. And if you guys can't afford the merch, not everybody can. I understand that. Like I said, we have Mojo Fantasy there. You can use my code DuckZone. And if you guys like watching sports and trying to make some money, make sure to use my code. That's another way to help the podcast out as well. All right. Appreciate everybody who does that. Let's go ahead and look around the Pac-12. What happened, man? This conference has been so awesome this year. And some amazing games. Let's look around what happened this last weekend. Let's start here. Arizona State at Washington, right? Washington, top 5 in the country, coming off a big-time win against Oregon. Pac-12 after dark strikes again. Washington was up 7-3 at halftime. Weird win here for Washington where they don't score an offensive touchdown and still win the game. I mean, Washington fans coming off this Oregon win, this is supposed to be the best. This is their comparative to 2019 LSU here, Joe Burrow, right? They don't score an offensive touchdown in the next game. A little bit of an Oregon win hangover here coming off their Super Bowl, the regular season win. So this is their 15-7 win. Not so impressive. Michael Penix, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. His Heisman campaign's looking a little shaky now. I mean, I don't know. I like Washington. I like what they're doing, but this win here, I get it. Arizona State beat them last year. They seem to struggle with the Sun Devils, and credit to Kenny Dillingham's, credit to the Sun Devils. They came out and had a game plan and executed very well, handled Washington's offense very well. And, they were in it. But Arizona State's offense just couldn't get it done. Washington's defense steps it up. And again, what do championships team do? What does a playoff team do? They get wins even when they're not playing their best. And that's what Washington did. They win it 15-7 here against the Sun Devils in an ugly game. And those lucky damn Huskies win one. But in reality, I'm actually kind of happy they're winning. I actually want them to go undefeated so we can meet them in that Pac-12 championship and ruin everything they've ever worked for by beating them in the Pac-12 championship. That's my dream scenario. I don't know if you got the opportunity to watch this one or watch any highlights, but what's your take on this game, or anything you want to say about it?
Yeah, I watched a little bit of it earlier, actually, and it was interesting. That's for sure. I mean, I wouldn't say Arizona State is horrible. They've put up some battles, this season, but I mean, coming off of their win versus Oregon, I was like, man, I don't know, that's tough. But I think Penix, his Heisman campaign is starting to fizzle out a little bit after, that. And even versus, Oregon and Bo Nix, a lot of people talk about that. Bo Nix kind of outperformed Michael Penix Jr. So it's a thing. So I don't know, not much to mention on it, but I would say it's concerning a little bit for Washington fans. If I was a Washington fan, I'd be a little bit like keeping my eye on it, but we'll see how they do next week. So,
I said this after the Oregon game. I mean, Oregon really kind of felt like they beat themselves in that Washington game. Statistically, in every stat category, Oregon was up on Washington. They had the lead with 2 minutes left, and Washington just made the plays when it was needed. But over the course of the game, you look at the stats and how the game was going, Oregon was the better football team that day. And Washington's defense, man, they kind of look a little Swiss cheesy. Like, they got some holes up in there. And the USC defense is probably a lot worse than that. And then you got Washington, and then you kind of got Oregon, USC, and Utah. And Washington's defense is mid, is what they'd say. It's mid. So, it ain't all that. And it just stepped up against Arizona State, though. They got that pick. I don't know if you've seen that controversial play. The Pac-12 refs absolutely Pac-12 reffing it, where the guy got grabbed right here and they just missed the call. Man, it was just bad calls, bad Pac-12 reffing. And yeah, Washington gets lucky, 15-7. That's all right. Let them win. Hopefully we'll see him again. Oregon, they get the win, 38-24 against Washington State. We just talked about that one. Nice win for Oregon at home there. And then this was the game of the week, in my opinion. Utah at USC. These two teams absolutely hate each other because Utah, Kyle Whittingham, has become Lincoln Riley's daddy at this point, beating him, time and time again now in these close. It's been close every time they play. It's been a game, but Utah finds a way to win. Utah now, 2-time Pac-12 champs in a row now. They've beaten USC twice last year, now again. I mean, Kyle Whittingham, they're a championship level team. They have a championship level coach, and they show it. They show it in matchups like these. They go out to LA and get a big momentum win, and now they're going to come play Oregon at home. I mean, man, talk about a big-time win for Utah without Cam Rising, who was just announced out for the year, by the way, so we're not going to see Cam Rising, which is kind of sad in the year of the quarterback, where the Pac-12 is just loaded with all these quarterbacks. Cam Rising is one of those quarterbacks that's was one of the better quarterbacks in the conference, a couple years ago. So it's kind of sucks to see that his year is over with. But I think his name's Bryson Barnes, if I'm not mistaken, for Utah. Their backup quarterback is just killing it, man. 3 touchdowns in this game. Hang toe-to-toe with Caleb Williams. And then Utah's defense, top 10 in the country. When we go play them, this is going to be the best defense that Oregon has seen all season, possibly going to be the best defense that Oregon will see all season. Kyle Whittingham and his defenses are you better expect it. They're just going to be good every year. They recruit really well in the trenches. They recruit really well in state. And, USC, they got all the flash. They got the quarterback that paints the fingernails and gets the headlines, but that doesn't win football games, man. It's just proven, man. And Utah, they don't get no media coverage. They're 2-time defending Pac-12 champs, and they go out and win football games. So 34-32 there. Utah is going to be seeing Oregon here next week. College game day. Can't wait. What's your take on this game, man?
Yeah, I think it was a good game, right? It was fun to watch, and I went back and watched it today, and USC is looking a little bit fraud worthy. USC fans, don't come after me, but I don't know. I think they were hyped up a lot in the beginning of the season. A lot of people were talking a lot of smack, especially USC fans, and now they're coming out. And I think, what are they ranked now? 24th, I think. So
yeah, 24th.
So they're almost unranked. Another loss, and they're not going to be ranked anymore. So I don't know. I think Utah is a better team than I think some people have kind of talked about, because I feel like for whatever reason, people just kind of skip over Utah, even though, Utah has, again, won the Pac-12 championship the last 2 years, and just no one kind of seems to remember that. So, Utah's a good game, or was a good game, and I think it's going to be a good game this weekend. So,
Yeah,
excited.
I think people really wrote Utah off because one, their starting quarterback got hurt. So when that happens, everybody kind of, assumes like, okay, they're pretty much done. But what people fail to realize is they got a head coach who's been in the game for 20 plus years now, who's, beating Alabama 2009. He just two Pac-12 champions. So this ain't his first time going through it without his first starting quarterback. And, it just so happens Bryson Barnes is a pretty solid quarterback. Now, he's not Cam Rising. He ain't going to beat you alone. He's going to need that run game that he has, and he definitely has a damn good offensive line and a damn good running game surrounding him that helps him out a lot. But this is a guy that can make plays when it's needed and starting caliber level quarterback. Very solid quarterback. Bryson Barnes, very consistent, and he had 3 touchdowns against USC. But this is the thing. Oregon's defense ain't USC's defense. I'll tell you that right now. So it's going to be a great matchup next Saturday. All right, UCLA at Stanford, man. Not much to talk about here. UCLA gets it done 42-7 on the road. Stanford just continues to look bad. UCLA, Chip Kelly gets it done. I guess one noteworthy thing in this game that happened that I peeped is that Chip Kelly benched Dante Moore mid-third quarter and put in a different quarterback. So that's something to watch. Is Dante Moore not going to be the starting quarterback for UCLA? Who knows? That's something to see. But that kind of wraps it up there for the Pac-12 Week 8 slate. Arizona State, Washington. Washington gets the win 15-7. Oregon gets the win over the Cougars 38-24. Utah beats USC 34-32. UCLA beats Stanford 42-7. What a year for the Pac-12 and the final year of the Pac. All right, man. I think that wraps it up for today's episode. I appreciate everybody for tuning in once again. Maleki, where can we find your work?
You can find me over on Instagram at DucksFocus, and you can find me on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Anchor.
Bam, there you guys go. I'm your host, Dominiqk Peterson. This is the DuckZone503 Podcast, where we talk all things Oregon football. If you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button down below. If you listen on Spotify, rate the Spotify podcast 5 stars for me, baby. As always, guys, I'll be back here on Wednesday to give you the preview and prediction episode for this big time matchup. Oregon, Utah. Cannot wait for it. We're going to have a special guest on here as well. I was pretty close with my prediction last time for this Washington State-Oregon game. I had 42-24, 38-24 this game. What's going to be my prediction next for this Utah-Oregon game? We're going to have to wait. Tune in Wednesday. As always, guys, go